I'm James Hamilton from Stumpy Nubs Woodworking Journal, and I'm often asked my advice on choosing the right table saw. It seems a lot of new woodworkers looking for their first saws, and even long-time woodworkers looking to replace existing saws, are making poor decisions when it comes to choosing the right type with the right features and at the right price. This isn't a small investment, so the worst thing you can do is settle for something less than you should have, only to have to replace it again later. So, as someone who has tried just about every kind of saw out there, and who really has no dog in this fight, I don't sell table saws and I don't have a sponsor who does, I feel like I can help you make the right decision. What we're going to do is go through the pros and cons of the 4 most common types of saws out there. I'll throw in observations and opinions based on my personal experience, and I'll wrap up with my recommendations, some of which may surprise you. So let's get started. For a short time, I owned a portable benchtop saw much like this one. At first, I thought it was great. It was lightweight and compact. I could put it on a shelf. I could throw it in the trunk of my car, set it on some sawhorses outside. Pretty handy, right? But it was also woefully underpowered. It struggled to rip hardwoods. The aluminum top was small and not even close to being flat. The fence was flimsy and nearly impossible to keep parallel to the blade. The direct drive universal motor was loud and the saw vibrated excessively. I came to realize it was more of a saw-shaped object than a proper table saw, but at least it was easy to throw away. Later, we got a Bosch portable job site saw, and after that benchtop saw, this thing felt like a dream. You have to give credit to Bosch. They really revolutionized portable saws with bigger motors, better fences, and clever features like extendable rip capacity and those all-terrain stands that fold up easy. If all I ever made were small projects with thin hardwoods, I may have been able to make do with that saw. But while the fence was better, it still didn't lock down reliably parallel to the blade. The table was still small, its lightweight didn't dampen vibration sufficiently, and with only 24 inches of rip capacity, it was difficult to work with sheet goods. So the bottom line on portable and job site saws is you may get by with one if you're a contractor or an occasional hobbyist. But to get a good one, you have to spend about as much as you would on a larger contractor saw. So unless space and portability are major issues, I'd pass on the portable saws. My first real table saw was a used Delta Rockwell contractor saw from the 1970s. They called these contractor saws because they were smaller and lighter than the big cabinet saws. So technically you could remove the motor that hung out the back and then lug the thing to a job site. But you wouldn't want to do it very often because they're pretty darn heavy. Mine had a cast iron top, which was way better than my father-in-law's old Craftsman with its crappy aluminum top and the stamped steel wings. Cast iron stays flatter and the added weight dampens vibration better. Unfortunately, the wings on mine were cast aluminum, but it was still a great saw. I occasionally see old cast iron contractor saws like it on Craigslist for a couple $100, even today. That's a lot of saw for your money. They typically have 1.5 horsepower motors that hang out the open back, which is bad for dust collection, but it provides plenty of power for most hobby-level woodworking. The fences on older models are usually junk, but there are good aftermarket options available. They do vibrate a bit, both from their relatively lightweight and their single V-belt drive. And they can be a little difficult to align and keep that way because you have to adjust the trunnions inside the saw instead of the tabletop itself. But if you spend $200–300 on a good used contractor saw with a cast iron top and add another $200 or $300 for a high quality fence system, you might just have a saw that will do everything you need for less than a quarter of the price of a cabinet saw. Cabinet saws take their name from the cabinet that fully encloses the motor within the base. They're big, heavy, powerful, and expensive. They're for professional woodworkers and serious hobbyists. The tops are larger, the internal mechanisms are heavier duty, the motors are more powerful. They're built to absorb vibration and remain precisely aligned despite cutting through the thickest, hardest woods all day long. Their enclosed bases are better for dust collection. Their fences are usually robust and more accurate, and their motors are at least twice as powerful as contractor saws. Every serious woodworker wants a cabinet saw, it seems, but they aren't without drawbacks. For one thing, they're expensive. Even good used ones may cost you $1,000 or more, and new ones can be as much as $5,000. They usually require 220 volts on a dedicated 30 amp circuit, so your workshop might not have the capacity for it. And their size and weight make them difficult to move, especially getting it into the shop in the first place. I recommend cabinet saws for anyone who can afford them, but I do admit that they may be overkill for many hobbyists. So if you're on a budget, like a lot of people are, and you work mostly with 3/4 inch thick materials, and you only build smaller projects and maybe the occasional piece of furniture, you may not need a cabinet saw. Hybrid saws are relatively new to the woodworking world. They combine some of the features of a cabinet saw, like the enclosed motor and often more substantial bearings and trunnions, with the smaller footprint and the lower price point of a contractor saw. They're easier to align and to keep aligned than a contractor saw, but they feature less powerful motors than cabinet saws. The bottom line is they are a step above a contractor saw, but a step or two below a cabinet saw. So which saw is right for you? Normally, I say buy the best tool you can afford, but that advice can lead you astray in this area. If all you can afford is a $50 aluminum top portable saw with a bad fence, you'd be better off waiting and saving a bit longer than wasting your bankroll on something that will actually be detrimental to your craft. So if money is an issue, I highly recommend that you just patiently save and watch for a used cast iron top contractor saw in the $200 to $400 price range. They made millions of these things over the last half century. They're out there. You just have to be willing to expand your search and be willing to drive. You can get by without cast iron wings, but stay away from anything with an aluminum top if at all possible. Don't overpay if the fence is junk. Save some cash for a good aftermarket T-style fence. That'll cost you at least $200 or $300, but that is the single best upgrade you can make to a saw. It is a real game changer. Now, a saw like that may last you a lifetime. Yes, it will cost a bit, but this isn't a cheap craft. You may as well accept it. And the last place you want to compromise is on one of the most important tools in your shop. Of course, if you have the extra cash and you want to invest in a new saw, I'd consider a hybrid saw instead of a contractor saw. They're a bit more expensive, but the increase in quality makes it worth the investment. Finally, if you do a lot of woodworking at a high level, a cabinet saw might be for you. A 3-horsepower model with a 52-inch fence will be enough for most, but it never hurts to go for the extra horses if you have the extra cash. Of course, choosing a saw is just the first step. You also need to understand table saw safety, choosing the right blades, and how to use it for more than just simple cuts. We've got you covered with our 5-part table saw series, which I'll link to in the description below this video. If you're watching this on an app, click the little arrow to expand. If you're watching this on YouTube, click Show More. If you get what you pay for, then why are bandsaw blades so inexpensive at sawblade.com? Seriously, they're as good as any I've used. They come in any size you need, and they cost quite a bit less than anything comparable at the woodworking retailers. Try them for yourself at the link below this video. You'll see. Wait, don't go yet. If you're new here, please subscribe and remember to ring the bell. I would really appreciate that. Give us a thumbs up, or better yet, leave us a comment. I always read them. And be sure to check out the latest issue of Stumpy Nubs Woodworking Journal. It's always packed with tips, tricks, and tutorials designed to make you a better woodworker.